Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ladies Room Talk Show. I'm Clarissa Kenty, your Kingdom Concierge, and I'm your host for tonight. Hey, it's going to be a great, fantastic show. We have a great guest that's here, the assistant principal from Minor Elementary, and we're going to be talking about literacy. And actually, I'm glad he's on the show because we're going to talk about something that's very dear to my heart and for our third graders that are having to take a test in reading comprehension. And I have a slight concern there, and I'm glad that Mr. Douglas is going to be on the show so he can share a little bit more and give us some insight on what our third graders can prepare to encounter with this test, and also what the parents can plan to do to assist our teachers to ensure that our children are doing well and will do well on the test. So before we get started, I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Juliet Arrington, a good friend of mine. She's such a beautiful soul. She was on the show a couple of weeks ago. We didn't come on Labor Day. We were off for Labor Day, but she was on the show previous, and we were talking about her school and how she's able to take her students and really build them up to a place to where they can graduate with great grades and make them strong leaders in the community. How she was able to get good scholarships for these students to go to the school of their choice. And so I really like what Dr. Arrington is doing out there in the community and what she's doing with our children. So big kudos to my sister out there. Thank you so much for joining me inside the Ladies Room Talk Show. And she's always welcome to come back at any time. Trust me, I love it. Well, guys, listen, it's football season. I'm excited because I do have a football player in my home. He plays for Tuskegee, the University of Tuskegee, Matthew Kenty, number 57. I think that's his number, 57. So we did go to the first game, the Red Tails. Now, Tuskegee did not bring home the W. However, they're still getting it together. They have a new principal. They have a new coach, and I'm sure he's getting acclimated and getting used to the team. So I was still impressed with what I saw, and I'm just ready for football, and I'm ready to see my son out there on the field. This will be his last semester. He'll be graduating after this, so it's special for us. But we are home divided because my husband and I are proud graduates of Miles College, which Tuskegee will be playing Miles this year. So it's always a tough one for us, but we just kind of split our shirts. Half is Tuskegee and half is Miles College. So that's just how we do it. So, but football season is ready. So we're excited about that as well for all of you football fans out there. I know you're going to be enjoying some great games on the weekend. Also want to say congratulations and appreciation to two pastors that are very dear to me. Both of them have been on my show before. Apostle Stephen A. Davis with Refresh Family Church and Refresh Nation. They celebrated their wedding anniversary, he and Lady Davis, and they also had a beautiful a celebration at the Harvard Center. I was out of town that weekend and wasn't able to attend, but I certainly know they had a great time. I saw the pictures, and I did reach out to them and tell them congratulations and how much I appreciate them and what they do. So congratulations to them. Also, I actually have one more pastor as well. Also, Pastor Earl Dixon and Pamela Dixon, First Lady of Kingdom Ministries. I had the honor of emceeing that pastoral appreciation on yesterday, and boy, did we have a time yesterday. He is celebrating 34 years of ministry, 34 years of marriage, and he also celebrated his birthday on yesterday, 59 years old. Again, thank you for the opportunity to MC and to share in such a wonderful event. Pastor Al Moore was the speaker, and he really shut it down on yesterday. It was a great message. And again, it was an honor to be able to MC that program, and much love and appreciation to you, Pastor Earl Dixon, and your beautiful wife. And again, appreciations and love to you as well. Apostle Clinton Calhoun also celebrated pastoral appreciation on yesterday, and his fiance sent me an invitation. I wasn't able to attend, but I want to tell both of them that they're doing a great job with the church, and again, great appreciations to them, and a celebratory salute to both of them as what they're doing in ministry as well. So guys, thank you again for that. So now let's go ahead and bring our guest onto the show. We have the assistant principal from Minor Elementary School here in Birmingham, Alabama. We have the assistant principal, John Douglas. Hello, Mr. Douglas.
Hello, how you doing, Miss
I'm doing
Kinty?
fantastic, fantastic. Welcome to the Ladies Room Talk Show. This is your first time
It
being
is.
in the ladies' room. Now,
Yes.
I always check with my men to make sure they're okay. Usually, if a man is in the ladies' room, it's because he stepped in by mistake and said, "Oh my gosh," and then he runs back out. But you're going to be in here for at least 30 minutes on purpose.
Okay. Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that, I suppose.
Very good. Well,
Yes.
we're so excited to have you. Listen, I know that you had a great event tonight at Minor Elementary School with the Literacy Night, and we want to hear about that. And we want to hear a little bit more about what Minor Elementary is doing to prepare our third grade students to pass this test that they're required to take. So we're going to dig down into that. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Douglas, and how long you've been at Minor Elementary School, and just let the folks know a little bit about you.
All right. My name is John Douglas. I am a father, married. I have a family of four.
Wow.
I have four kids. Let me say a family of. I have four kids and my wife, so it's a family of six of us. My oldest son is 28. He's in Atlanta. I did just have recently have a son to pass, which was Jonathan, who is 18. My daughter is 22. She attends Kennesaw State, and our baby boy is a senior this year. So that's a
Ooh,
little bit about me. I've
okay.
been at Minor as assistant principal for about 4 years now.
Okay.
I am very well acquainted of the west side of town. I taught for years at Ensley High School. I attended Miles College. Go Golden Bears!
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So actually, me and Kenty actually played together at Miles.
You played, did you?
Yes, we actually was on the same
Wow. Okay.
team.
Now,
Yeah.
what position did you
I
play, Mr.
played defensive end. He was a quarterback. Yes, so we was
Okay.
on the
Okay.
opposite
So,
side
hey,
of
hey,
the ball.
listen, I was gonna say, so you were the one that was responsible for him getting hurt if you were on the line. I had a few
Le-
words for you, but
So
since you weren't on
I was on the
the
other. I was on the other side. I was
I
on
will
the
I will
other side.
keep that to myself then.
Yes. So when you was talking about your son attending Tuskegee, I said, yeah, I can understand. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's a tough one.
awesome.
So you've been at Minor for 4 years.
Yes,
You've been there long enough to see some great things, and of course, you've been there through the pandemic as well. I'm
yes.
sure that was kind of a tough one, being that who prepares for something like that. You just have to kind of pivot.
Well, I tell you one thing. Yes, I was there before the pandemic and after the pandemic. I will say now, as far as technology, the pandemic did help push not just Minor, but our district as a whole into technology. That was something that we had already begun to start working with at Minor. So once that hit, we were one of the schools that I can say um, were device ready,
Mhm.
which means we had the devices to give our kids. Even though the district bought us the new up to date device, we were at that point named the Apple School. So having a lot of Apple devices is something that we had. So under our supervision of our principal, Dr. Vanessa G. Bird, we were really ready when it hit. Had things in place that we were able to connect with our kids at home when they went on ahead and closed the school down and allowed us to teach from home.
Wow, that's good. I commend our teachers, and so a lot of people look at the frontline workers as being nurses and doctors and police force, but I've always considered our instructors in the school system as being frontline workers as well, because you're having to continue to push education in the
Yes,
best way that you possibly can in uncertain times and in just unorthodox situations. And
yes,
for you guys to be able to do that and still be able to keep things going, that's very commendable. And we're still in somewhat of a pandemic. There are other
yes.
things that's still coming down the pipeline, and I'm sure you're having to implement safety as much as possible. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank
My
you.
daughter just graduated from Ramsey High School,
Awesome.
so I don't have any more kids in the Birmingham school system, but
Got
they did. All of my children came up through the Birmingham school system,
awesome.
and I'm very proud of that. They WJ Christian and Ramsey, and
Awesome.
so I love what Birmingham has done. in the school systems, and I love what you guys are doing at Minor.
Thank
So
you.
when you tell me about that literacy night tonight. You guys had games and parents
Yeah,
sharing
so
food.
tonight was a night with lit night. We like to bring our parents in, and the biggest thing is to try to show the parents the activity that the students are doing, and
Mhm.
also talk with the parents of why we're doing these activity, and also give them other resources. So tonight was a night to give away stuff to our parents, give them some resources that they can work with their students at home.
Mm,
Because again, I do believe in that. They're saying that it takes a village. It
it
takes
does.
all of us to do
Mhm,
our part.
mhm.
My biggest slogan that I tell all our parents at Minor, I want to do my part to make your child the best version of them,
Right.
the best version that you can imagine your child to be. That's my job, is to help nurture that and grow that so that they can become the best person that they can. So in that process tonight at literacy night, all of our teachers were out, all grade levels. So each grade level set up a table for our parents to come so they can sit down and they can learn how to work these activities, learn how to work these games, so that
Okay.
when they get home, it's not foreign language to the parent.
Right. Right.
So when the child may forget something and say, "Well, mom, we did," mom can, or dad can help reiterate. No, I think you probably should do it this way. So
Mhm.
that was the purpose of literacy night, to come out and to help our parents with things that's going to help their kids with reading.
Yeah, and I like that that's what you're doing because with the requirement, and I think this
Mhm.
may be the first year that this is being implemented for our third grade children to have to pass this test.
Right.
And it's a standardized test that our children will have to do.
Yes.
Now, I have concerns about that, and I think my concern is, um, making sure that that type of test is conducive to the culture all the way around. And
Absolutely agree.
usually, those types of tests, Mr. Douglas, usually those standardized tests aren't comparable to all cultures, be it, African American, Hispanic, Asian, whomever, there's certain things that are on that test. It did not have all cultures in mind when it was
Hmm.
created. And so I think that, to me, now, of course, I haven't seen the test, don't know about it, but I just
Hmm.
have this feeling that it might be somewhat biased. And when I think about this test, I think about the exit exam for the high school students.
Hmm.
And when that became a requirement, the dropout rate almost quadrupled when that test was out there. And so it did the opposite of what they felt it was supposed to do. And so a lot of kids were dropping out of school. They weren't completing school. They didn't go back to get their GED. So it proved to be very disheartening. And they eventually dropped the test. Now, I dare say they dropped it because of that, but it was a lot of students that were dropping out, African American, white, Hispanic, whomever. That test was not part, didn't have no respect of person.
Hmm.
Put it like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
what
go
I
ahead.
was what I would say is, let me go ahead. Let's see, at the 14:26 mark of the show. What I would say is, hey, this is Mr. Douglas' opinion on it. This is
Okay.
Mr. Douglas' work on it. This is not a reflection of the school district.
Right.
But what I would say is, what I believe, and again, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, so we kind of direct. Um, when we talk about standardized testing and create the test and so forth, yes, we would love to say, we will hope that whomever created this test for the third grade was a fair representation of all cultures. Now, we are in the United States of America. There has been a issue from the beginning of being fair to all cultures. Now, we have made gains. Things have changed a little bit, but have it changed enough? Is the question that we ask ourselves. As far as testing our kids, I do believe you have to have some form of assessment, but let's be honest, we should have a fair form of assessment.
That's right.
Um, testing our kids in the third grade, I think that is a great grade to have that testing at. But again, we're in the state of Alabama, and kindergarten is still not even mandatory to attend.
Mm,
So it's only mandatory for a child to attend school in the first grade and the second grade, and you're going to test them in the third grade to see if they are reading
mm,
at a fluent level. Yeah, that I have an issue with that. I'm just going to be honest, but that's
mm.
Mr. Douglas. That's
Right.
not everyone, because you're telling me you want a kid to read at an efficiency level that you have done, that you've set, but you only make it mandatory for them to go to first grade and second grade. So
Mm.
how do you read
That's
proficiency? See, yeah, that's the part that
see,
a
I
lot of
didn't
people
even
don't
think
know.
about it like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
so those are some things, from an educator standpoint, that I have concerns about. But
Mm,
do I think students need to be assessed um, to that degree? Yes. Now, do they have certain things and causes, or they have certain set up certain things to say, well, if a kid don't meet proficiency and the teacher think that they should be at proficiency, everybody's not a great test taker.
right. That's right.
However, they do have those in place for the Literacy Act, but it's quite a bit that has to take place in order to get those, due causes in place. So
Mm. Yeah, that's so funny because I didn't even think about the fact because I went to first grade. I
right.
look, my parents had it like, it's mandatory.
Right. Oh, you're talking about kindergarten. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we just
Yes.
knew, hey, we going to kindergarten. Everybody in my family went, and all my
Right.
kids went, kind of generational type thing.
Right.
And
Right.
I made it mandatory. I was like, you can't not go.
Right.
It's
Right.
what we do.
Exactly. But
But
yeah.
I'm thinking when you were saying that, as a matter of fact, somebody just said here, Mr. Douglas, great observation about what you mentioned.
Thank you.
Um, what my thought was, I'm like you, I don't really have an issue with our children being tested at any level,
Hmm.
but to the degree of holding them back
Right.
if there is a deficit. My thing
Hmm.
is assess it, correct it, put things in place, extra tools in place to get them the way they need to be, and then test them early enough in that school year to
Okay.
where you have enough time to push and implement those things, you
Absolutely.
know, and then maybe even test them at the beginning of fourth grade to make sure that they have what they need from third grade. You have your whole school grade, you have the summer, and then you can go and assess.
Right.
There's so many other things that you can implement, but I think to keep them from going to the next level, and I'm assuming I got that right,
Hmm.
because if what you're saying is that even though you may have straight A's in science, you may have straight A's in English, you may have straight A's in all of these schools and not pass this test, you may have a straight A in reading.
Hmm.
But if you don't pass this test, you're going to be held back. Is that how I'm understanding this, or did I read it wrong?
No, no, that's so it is a proficiency score that they have to make. So here's the thing, and I do understand from both sides. And the reason I'm gonna say this, because when I first came to minor, I had a parent that came, and the parent was complaining, oh, my child's a straight A student, been a straight A student. And now, unfortunately, when you get to the third grade, so let me break this down as best as I can.
Mhm.
My background was secondary. So elementary, I had to learn that process.
Right.
Um, Biggest thing is when you're in first grade, you're learning letter, number, sounds, things like that. Second, no, kindergarten. First grade, you're starting to read those little books that say Dan can run. They real short. Then when you get to the second grade, you might have two sentences on per page. At best you might have three. Now, when you get to the third grade, now they go into information tech. They're going to really read, and you have to read with proficiency.
Right.
So issue that takes place in here is if you have a kid that did well first grade, second grade, reading those stories, and then all of a sudden they get to third grade, it's boom. Now you
Mhm.
have to remember a lot of information or read a lot of information.
Wow.
So I've had parents that come in and say, well, my child was a straight A student. So I understand the correlation of what you were saying. Well, what if a child has straight A, straight B? You know, I've had to sit down and tell parents, yeah, that is true. But unfortunately, the teacher didn't do your child a justice because really they're not to that level. They're really, further down.
Right.
So it's a balance that you have to have in play. And what I mean by that is, it's cute and it's nice, but you really have to put the work in. As far as, let's be honest with our parents and say, hey, this is where this child reading level is. And that's one thing that I can say we do at mine. I call a parent in and say, okay, this is where we are. This is where we're trying to get to. This is where we have to get to.
Okay.
So let's put some things in play to help this child become that child that we know they can become. Let's put some things in place, the tutoring, the small group, the at home resources. Those are type things that we do at Minor to try to help get those children to proficiency.
So, Mr. Douglas, what happens when, and I'm going to use our young boys.
Okay.
Okay. What happens when we have our young boys who, for whatever reason, they may not be good test takers?
Okay.
Okay. But they did not meet the requirements to have other types of assistance. They may have some type of anxieties and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Don't do well on this test.
Hmm.
Okay. So now we're going to hold these kids back, right?
Right.
So, are there any types of safety nets in place to help our children emotionally? Because third grade and fourth grade, that's where their personalities come in. And based on what I read now, once they hit that fourth grade, whatever personality they have, that's
Hmm.
what they're going to have. It pretty much won't change too much going on throughout life. But
Hmm.
if we're hitting them with this type of experiences in their life at this age, especially our young boys. I have two
Hmm.
boys and I have a daughter, and my
Hmm.
boys are older. And that's always been my thing to undergird them with the understanding of who they are as men and
Hmm.
who they are as black men. Okay,
Absolutely.
those two things are not going to change.
Right.
And so I was very adamant about making sure they're encouraged, to make sure that they're uplifted, just to put those things in place for them. But you have this situation that could happen, that our children not pass this test. And if they're told at third grade, hey, you're not good enough or smart enough to go
Hmm.
to the fourth grade, yet you have good grades and all these other things, but this one test tells us that you're not good enough to go to the next grade. And that's pretty much what it's going to say to a child.
And let's see, how do I answer that question? Let's see. Let's say this. First of all, it takes it takes all of us. And standing in the middle. And why I say I'm standing in the middle, because I hear both sides of the fence, and I must commend you, Ms. Kenty, for your the work that you did with your boys. And if we had that kind of work in every household, then this process will be so much easier, so much smoother, and we will probably have very few young men that have to deal with that situation.
Mhm.
So for those that's not getting that at home is where we run into the problem. And what I mean by that, you know, I had we had a good time tonight at our literacy night. For the parents that came, was the percentage what I wanted? Absolutely not. And I think that the biggest thing is really, how do we reach that group, with all that we see that's going on in Birmingham, the shooting, all this foolishness? How
Yes.
do we change the mindset of our parents to get them to understand, let's put our everything we have into our children so that they can make it better and each generation get better?
Mhm.
Um, are things in place to help that young man that's going to feel broken like that? Honestly, what we do at the school with our counselor, with our SEL, our social emotion department, yeah, we do our part, But is that enough? No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, it's not enough. And that's a sad thing, because I do understand it's going to be some kids that's going to have to deal with that situation. And the only thing we can do as a school is to put things in place. We put social emotion, put counselors in place to help build them up.
Mm.
The best thing my principal said to me, she was like, Douglas, one reason I really wanted you, because I wanted to have a male for my young boys.
That's right.
My young boys. So, and I looked at school. I have this is we just hired our second male core teacher since I've been there. So we have two male core teachers. We
Oh,
have
good.
four
Good,
teachers
good.
in each grade. So from kindergarten to fifth grade, we have two male teachers. So how lucky does a kid have to be to get in that teacher class? So if you're a boy, you have a high probability of going from kindergarten to fifth grade at minor and not getting a male teacher.
Mm.
So, I make it my business every day to walk to every classroom, to speak to every teacher, to make sure I wave at all of my students, because I might be that one male role model that those boys get an opportunity to see, to say, hey, I want to grow up and be like Mr. Douglas and wear a shirt and tie to
That's
my
right.
job. So, that is something that, I don't think people think about, but that is very, very important.
It is. And it's funny because I was going to tell a story about my oldest son, and
Mhm.
I'm assuming you know Stephanie Turner.
I do. I do.
She put on here the Kentys and Douglas families are amazing.
Thank
No,
you.
I love Miss Turner. I don't think Miss Turner had my daughter. I think Miss Turner may have gone on to another school at that point, but she did
Mhm.
have my boys, both of them.
Awesome.
She taught both of them.
Awesome.
And what we did, Miss Turner and I, when I first met Miss Turner, I know she's gonna laugh, but sometimes parents can be a little janky and come with an attitude and
Mhm.
you know how they do.
Yeah.
So Miss Turner, she was posted up and ready. She's probably gonna say no, because she can't stop me because she can't come on here and say anything.
Uh,
But she was ready for me, Mr. Douglas. She was ready. Now she wasn't ugly or anything like that,
mhm.
but she was ready and she was sitting there with her little notepad. And so something she said, and I said, oh, really? I said, oh no, the devil is a lie. And she looked, and so that was the beginning of our friendship,
Awesome.
because she realized that she realized in me as a parent
Mhm.
that now my kids are, if they are right, they're right, and I'm going to
Mhm.
support that.
Right.
But if they weren't, if there's some areas that they needed to work in, if they were talking too much or didn't turn
Mhm.
in their homework or whatever,
Right.
I look at the facts. And Miss Turner brought those facts to me. So what she and I decided to do was to work together as a team
That's it.
in order to make sure that my boys, and it was EJ at the time, who just got Teacher of the Year in
Awesome.
Kentucky. He teaches at Paducah Middle School
Awesome.
in Kentucky. First year teacher, Mr. Douglas, and got Teacher of the Year.
That is awesome. That
Yes.
is
So,
so
and
awesome.
Miss Turner, I think you may have had something to do with that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Awesome.
But what I did with her and Miss Lavender, there's a couple of those that were there in that middle school side,
Mhm.
is that we just kind of double team and work together to do the things that we need to do for them. There's several other teachers out there that I have not named, that we all just really join together. But like you said, there are some kids that don't have that parent participation
Right.
or that parent involvement of what's going on, and those are the ones that I'm really concerned about. I'm
Absolutely.
really, when I tell you I'm concerned about the third grade, and I don't have children that young,
Right. Right.
I love children. If I could have had 50 of them, I would have. I love children. And
Absolutely.
so when I think about that and what could possibly happen on the other end of this thing, I'm disheartened. And I like what you're doing. You are putting things in place to bring the parents involved, to bring the children involved. And so whatever reason, some parents may not have the time. Some parents may feel like they may not be to that level to where they can help their kids.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, and it's hard to say, there may be some parents that don't know how to read, you know,
Absolutely.
so they can't help, their children. So I like that what you're doing. You're having the literacy nights, and you're having the games, and you're making it fun, and I'm sure you'll come up with something else to get the ones that weren't able to come.
Oh,
Sometimes they may
absolutely.
work
Yeah,
in the evening.
we have a
Yeah.
book blast coming up,
Okay.
so that they can email out to people so they can get free books.
Okay.
Just coming up with different ideas.
Hey, Mr. Douglas, you may have to have yourself a literacy block party. Have
Oh,
one of the big,
that
I
sounds
tell you,
good.
have one of the big major DJs come in and bring your celebrity, somebody who likes literacy. Then
Yeah, it
you
sounds
might
like you
get.
working. It sounds like you working up something for us because we we
Right?
had 95.7 out there today at
Okay.
our literacy night. So yeah, maybe you can get us a block party going. That sounds like something that
You know what? I like the way you're thinking. Oh, thank
yeah.
you, Miss Turner. Miss Turner likes that. We'll bring Miss Turner in as the DJ.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, you may just have to kind of meet them where they are, because parents like to eat and have a little grill going or something. But I think what you're doing, it makes sense, because you're bringing awareness to it. Because if
That's
we
right.
sit, just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not going to come. This
Absolutely.
test is coming.
It's coming.
So it's coming. And so we got to talk about it. We have to put more energy to it. And what I realize, anything you talk a lot about, you keep it alive. You
Right.
feed it.
That's
And
right.
so it can't just be just a function or just an event. It has to be, really, at this point, until they make some changes, this has to be a lifestyle for our third grade teachers and our third grade students. And really, kindergarten, first and second, all of them, that's got to be their main focus.
Absolutely.
If
Absolutely.
passing is going to be hinged upon this test, it's got to be the
Absolutely.
main focus. So, my prayer, I'm going to see what I can do on my end to get this block party started now.
Okay.
So we're gonna get the party started. I like that. I
I
like
like
that.
it.
I'm gonna see
Yeah.
what I can do. I got some friends out there. I got some DJs,
Okay.
and see what we can do to make it really fun and to bring more students, more parents out, and so we can have dialogue about it. Because I believe that there are resources out there, things that you're doing that we could do to help our kids get it. And even in the reading part of it, um, they said that a lot of our children don't like to read. Well, some parents don't like to read. Okay, and
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
they're not
Yeah,
readers, and
and
so
and I'll tell you one thing. It's not so much that they may not like to read. It's this goes back. I think we talked about this before the show. It's
mhm,
what are you giving them to read? Because I'll be honest, Mr. Douglas is not big on reading, but guess what? You give me a book on science, you give
right,
me a book on football, I read it all day, every day. I like
okay,
science. I love talking about science. So COVID, when everybody was talking about COVID, my wife would sit there and look at me, and I was like, "Well, let me show you how vaccines work." So that's something. If you give it to me, I read that all day because
okay,
that's something that's intriguing to me. So as I went into when I first came over to minor and I'm going in the classroom. It was one particular book that one of the teacher was reading, and they used the term. The teacher was reading a story, and it was like it was saying "mammy" and "pappy," and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. So when I hear that, I'm like, "Whoa! What are we doing?"
right. Yeah,
But,
what
but
are we doing?
yeah, but guess what? That was one that was approved by the district for them to read. That was an adopted book, and it was in the text. Now, the teacher wasn't wrong. The teacher was just reading the story, but in my head, I'm like, man, you couldn't have read that to my son because I would have been mad.
Right.
But again, this was old story. So, this goes back to making sure that when we are sitting in the room, we're not just happy to be in the room. We have to have a voice when we're sitting in that room to say, no, I don't like this. No, no, my kids can't read that. So a lot of the things that I think our administration in Birmingham that we're moving forward with now, we're moving in a good direction. We're moving
Yes.
in a forward direction. But I
Mhm.
do think it's certain things that we do have to change. And I know we want to include all kids, but to me, you look at the population of kids that you are servicing, and let's make sure that we are servicing that population. I think we have his Latino or Hispanic heritage, which coming up at minor. So,
Mhm.
that's the theme. I want to bring all of that. So we have some things planned. We're gonna have a big old parade, and like I tell them all the time, just like when blacks wanted to be celebrated, the Hispanic want to be celebrated. And I
That's right.
want to jump in there and I want to celebrate with them, because if you see this hook on the end of my nose,
Mhm.
I have some Blackfoot Indian in me. So
Okay, okay,
yeah, so let's
okay.
celebrate. Let's celebrate.
I love it. I want to read a comment here. Sharonita has small children, and her daughter is an author of a book.
Okay.
And I can't remember. Sharonita, put in the chat how young your or how old your daughter is. She was much younger when she wrote that book. Very good book. I have it here at home
Awesome.
with me, and it's very good. And so, but she says here, those male core teachers are critical, and our kids need to be able to see themselves.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. I
I
couldn't agree more.
remember. Did you know, or do you know Michael Davis? Mr.
Like,
Davis, he was the principal of WJ Christian years ago when my boys were there.
no, I don't. I can't
Well,
say
when
that
he
I
was
remember.
there, he was one of those principals that he wore a whole suit every day, every day. And he did not play about shirts being out. Those belts had
Right.
to be on. That was him. And those boys, he had them walking the straight and narrow. And I
Right.
think he had a lot to do with probably how my oldest son really loves to dress.
Hmm.
My middle son is a little more casual, but my oldest one loves to dress. And so now, with he goes to school to teach, he wears suits to school. And so that, by what you were saying, even the kids may not say it, but if that's
Hmm.
what they're always seeing, they're just gonna, oh yeah, I'm gonna wear a suit. Yeah, I'm gonna wear a
Right.
suit. And they may
Right.
not even know why until they look
Right.
back and say, oh, okay, yeah. But it's
Absolutely.
just being that representation that these young boys need, and I'm really excited about what you guys do. Okay, she's 13 years old,
She
and
wrote the
so
book at 13.
Sharonita, how old was she when she wrote the book? I think she's 13 now, but I
Man,
think she was
that
a
is
little bit
awesome.
younger. Yeah, and I think she's either working on another book or has two books out already.
So
So
again, why not promote that? And I don't know where Sharon Need is from. Oh, she wrote it at 7. Wow.
7,
So yeah,
yes,
so why are those books not books that we're reading in our school? You know what I'm saying?
yes. See,
Like,
I was going to ask you that, Mr. Douglas. Is there a way that we can get the Black authors? Because we have
mhm,
local Black authors in
mhm,
Jefferson County
right,
that these books are, I mean, they're simply amazing, and they're about Black children. They're about Black culture. It's something
right.
that our children can glean from. They can relate to it. So, I mean, is it something we have to say, hey, do we need to talk to somebody and say, listen, we want Miss Reese's books, Naya. I think his name was Naya. We
Mhm.
want her books in all the schools in the city school system. Do we say that? How
Now,
do we get these books in their hands?
I don't want to put Dr. Turner on the spot since we're on live, but Dr. Turner will probably have a better idea of how that
Mhm.
works, because a lot of quite naturally comes down to funding. That's the biggest thing I am trying to promote at Minor this year, is having a PTA that is very active and engaged. Because certain things we can purchase and certain things we cannot purchase with funding. But when you have stuff like PTA, then they can say, you know what, as a PTA, we want those books at this particular school, and the
Right.
PTA they can go out and say, hey, we can buy those books and get those
Okay.
books at this school. You see what
Okay.
I'm saying? So that's the problem or the situation. Let me say it that way. Those are the different situations that we have to deal with as far as a school entity. Like I told, this is attendance awareness month, and I'm asking my PTA, I asked some people to sign up, but I wanted to do a thing to say the class with the most parents to sign up for PTA get an ice cream party. Well, guess what? I can't go buy ice cream for the kids with school funding, but what I can do is ask my PTA, hey, can y'all go out and sponsor this classroom, since all
Right.
those kids went out and did their part? Can you go sponsor them? They was like, yeah, Mr. Douglas, we can do that. So,
Mhm.
it's certain things that we have, um, that we have to look at, certain things that we can and can't do.
Wow. Well, it looks like if there's a way, and I will say this, when I had children in the Birmingham school system, I realized how important stakeholders were.
Yes.
And stakeholders are parents.
Yes.
And so I did not realize that until I think my oldest kids were in middle school.
Hmm.
And I said, stakeholders, hmm. And then I realized that stakeholders hold a lot of weight. And
Lot.
if parents would come together and say, listen, we want
That's right.
different types of books for our kids to read.
That's right.
To Kill a Mockingbird, okay, whatever. But I want this book,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely. 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 And that's very key and important. I was at Smith Middle School. I never get. I was a teacher over at Smith Middle School, and I walk in the library and I'm looking at all the books. That was one thing that I brought to the principal. He was like, "Doug, man, I ain't never paid that no attention." But guess what? He went about books, beyond books. And I was like, let's put these books on the shelf. Because as a kid, when I walk in the library, if I don't see anything that looks like me, I'm probably not going to want to check out anything. I'm going to only go to the things that I know, which is going to be the basketball books or the football books or the car
Mhm,
racing book,
mhm.
because that's something that I understand. But you can get that same knowledge in me if you put a little black kid on the book that looks like me, and he might actually talk about something that interests me.
Right.
But if I don't see a picture that looks like me, I'm probably not going to pick that book up.
And and then this is the thing, because I want people to know of all ethnicities
Hmm.
that when we say, we're steering our children towards books and things that are relevant to our culture, and
Hmm.
that these children or these whatever's in the books look like us.
Hmm.
It's not that we're trying to be racist or anything like
Absolutely.
that, but it's just
Absolutely.
it's what we're relating to,
Absolutely.
and to be forced to get something, to read something, to have something, to look at things that don't relate to us is not, in my opinion, very fair. If you
Absolutely.
want us to take a standardized test that has nothing to do with our culture.
And the question is, like we say, when I take the standardized test, and well, let me say this. For someone who has a degree in science and mathematics, here's the thing. English, I used to pick at social study teachers all the time.
Mhm.
And I tell them this: guess what? No matter where I go in the world, what number is this? Hold on, can y'all see?
Yeah,
All right. So if I'm in Tibet or whatever, this still gonna be number one.
that's
All
right.
right. It doesn't matter if I'm in Africa, if I'm in Europe. If you hold this finger up, people gonna know you're talking about just one item of whatever you're pointing at.
That's right.
This is going to be two items of
Mhm.
whatever you point at. I said, so understanding when we start talking about standardized tests, and what we're talking about here is reading. Um, One thing that I think is unfair is when we talk about our EL students. Okay, so our English language, our students that don't speak their primary language is not English.
Mhm.
A lot of time when they take these standardized tests, now they might be, let's say, 8 or 9 in their house. What is fluently spoken is Spanish.
Right.
So if that's what's fluently spoken in their house, and they only getting this English this short window during the school day, they're probably not going to be fluent in reading
Right.
English. But when we test them, we have to test them in English. Is that fair to them?
Mm-mm.
Absolutely not. To
Mm-mm.
me, all I'm saying is if you can pass this test in Spanish, you means you still understand the concept, you still understand the strategies and the
That's
skills.
right.
What does it matter if I take, because guess what? When they get to high school, we our first thing we say, you need to take 2 years of foreign language. You need to
That's
take
right.
a year of foreign language.
Right.
And I'm saying to myself, but you flunked somebody back in the third grade because they didn't speak English. Like, what are we
Right.
doing?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, see, those are the type things I think of. I'm like, are y'all serious?
Yes, you
Like,
should have been at the table, and about 10
yeah,
more of you.
yeah. You sitting up there like, really? So, it's certain things
Mm.
like that just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. My son Jonathan, 18, did not get accepted in two HBCUs. Don't want to call them two schools out. However, you know what they told him? You only had 1 year of foreign language, but he got accepted in University of Pennsylvania, UAB, Mississippi State, and he only had 1 year of foreign language. And I'm
Wow.
saying to myself, you know, I have conversation with parents. I don't speak fluent Spanish, but I pick up my phone, I put it on this app, I hit that app, I speak in English, they speak in Spanish, and we have a whole
You
conversation.
communicate. That's right. And you comprehend.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You
So
comprehend.
so
Oh
it's
my
certain
goodness.
things that just blow your mind. You're like, this what are we really doing this? Yeah, we
Yeah.
really okay.
It,
So
it, it'll be interesting to see how long this test lasts. The longevity of it will probably be very similar to the exit exam. Hopefully, not quite that long. Because you just don't want young children to have to deal with that.
right.
Because when they start getting those hits like that, those emotional hits,
Hmm.
sometimes they don't recover well from that.
Absolutely.
And so, and that's sometimes from children who may have to be held back for whatever reason. If they have a good support, usually it's pretty good. But there again, you still have to fight against the emotional part of it. Feeling adequate enough. Am I
Yes.
smart enough?
Right.
And so we just don't want that type of stigma or that type of hit
Right.
against our children. Not at that age. I
Right.
just have a very big concern about that. But my prayer is that our children will get it, and hopefully, we can get some books in there that they will like. When will that test be administered, Mr. W?
So it would be the spring, normally it's around about April of each school year. And I think that the actual held back year that they're going to do it will be next year. So they'll do it again this year. And basically, they're doing it to get that bottom line. They want to get that baseline going. So last year they took the exam, and they'll take it again this year, and they'll go ahead and get the baseline. So for the kids that are second graders, and at my end, those are the kids that we are definitely targeting right now, because those kids are going to take that assessment, and it will be a baseline already set for them. That once they take that assessment, they're going to hold them to that.
Okay, so, so I want to make sure I'm getting this straight. So the kids that are in the third grade right now, they may have an assessment, but it's not to a point where it would hold them back if they don't meet a certain requirement.
Right. So these are your baseline kids that you're testing this year, just like the students were last year. So you'll take two most time when they give when you have these type of assessment, these standardized assessment, most of the time you have a 2 to 3 year baseline assessment. So basically they want to test 2 or 3 groups of kids so they can get their baseline and say, okay, well, this is on average what the kids should be. And then after that, those that come after it, that's what they're held to.
Okay, that's good to know. So even if the stakeholders start working now to start getting more of these books that are relevant to our kids, that
Mhm.
gives you a whole year if you start now to
Right.
start working these books into the rotation
Absolutely.
into the school system.
Absolutely.
I know of a gentleman as well as Sharonita's daughter. This gentleman, his name is Cedric Threet, and I'm going to try to see if I can get you connected with him.
Okay.
Cedric has, I know, at least 30 or 40 books written, and a
Awesome.
lot of them are children's books. And we donated some books to a school, a few books. It wasn't enough
Mhm.
course to go around, but
Mhm.
I think he's in a space right now to where he could definitely have that dialogue to see what he could
Absolutely.
do to work with some people and get those manufactured and push them out there. They has
Absolutely.
the No Bully Zone, which I think is a great book. I love
Yes.
that book.
Yes. Yes.
It's a great book, the No Bully Zone. And so he has a couple other books that are out there. The colors are vivid, they're nice, the writing is amazing, and it's good to where it keeps the attention of the children. And
Absolutely.
so I'll definitely try to get you guys connected. But he would
Okay.
definitely be a good resource as it relates to books that kids will like and
Absolutely.
love reading. They
That's
will
right.
love reading those books, and I think you'll see that those books are age appropriate. So I think they will be
Absolutely.
good to kind of. He has some that'll maybe kind of bump them up a little bit to read maybe a level up, but I
Hmm.
don't think that could really hurt. I think it could
Right.
probably just really help.
Yeah,
To,
and that's what we want. That's what we want.
Mhm, mhm. Well, okay. Well, Mr. Douglas, our time is far spent, and it was probably spending a little bit more time than what I promised. But once we get on the roll and we talking about this
That's
thing,
it.
it's, and then we got the school teacher on here, we got parents on here talking and
Absolutely.
and sharing with us tonight. So, Mr. Douglas, from assistant principal point of view, what encouragement would you give our teachers? Number one, I need a two-part answer from you,
Okay.
because our teachers, and this is state, is countrywide. There's
Hmm.
a shortage of teachers.
Hmm.
Teachers are leaving these positions every day in the
Okay.
middle of schools, in the middle of a
Oh
school
yeah.
year. They're
Oh yeah.
packing up their grip and leaving.
Yes.
And then you have some students who are dealing with depression. They have a lot of emotional issues that's going on. It's a two-part test, a two-part statement, a
Okay.
question. If you could give some type of um, just encouragement, to our teachers, number one, and then to our students. I'm gonna pull you in full face, and then once you get through, I'll come back in. Okay.
Okay. I got you.
All right.
All right. So, encouragement that I'll start with our students. Um, One thing I'll tell you is, life, you want to be the best that you can. Accept all the help that you can get from your teachers. They are there to pour into you so that you can become the best version of you. So don't get all bent out of shape. But what the biggest thing is, stay the course. Understand that teachers are there to help you, to make you become the best version of you. So put your best foot forward. If you have anyone that is talking about you or making you feel uncomfortable, find that teacher that you can go to, that person in the office, and share your concerns with them, because teachers are there to help. School is there for you to learn, so that you can have fun. Encouragement to teachers, I will say this: it's a passion. You got to have that passion in you to want to go to school, to want to help kids. So I know that it's burning in you. I know sometimes we feel like we're beat down. I know sometimes, well, technically you are underpaid, but you're there because God have you there. And because God have you there, just do the best that you can, and realize that one day that little child that you helping out is going to pay dividends, because what we're doing is just pouring into them so that as they grow up, they can be the best version of them.
Awesome. That was beautifully said. Thank you so much. Now I know why you get paid the big bucks.
I wish. I wish.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm certainly going to get back with you about our block party idea,
Okay.
see what we can do to bring that in flourishing. I think that's going to sound like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And I think we'll get a lot of support on that as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Okay.
Again, thank you, Mr. Douglas, for your
Thank
time. Thank
y'all.
your beautiful wife for
Yes, I will.
loaning us to us for this period of time. And then you can tell them about your experience in the ladies' room. Say, I know what y'all do in the ladies' room now.
All right.
Now I know what
Thank
takes
you.
y'all so long.
Now, yeah, now I know it takes so long in the ladies'
Right.
room. Awesome.
But
Hey,
again,
and tell
thank you
your
so much.
husband I said go Bears, and I
I
wish your
will.
son much success until they play against Miles College.
Right, until then, because I'm like that too. But I think Ernest is watching, so I'm sure he heard your salute to him. So, but again,
Okay.
Mr. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us. And also, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us inside the Ladies Room Talk Show. Be sure to help a kid, help a child. We're in this all together. As Mr. Douglas said, it takes a village to raise our children. And all of my kids are out of school, but I still have a heart for our young people. And my biggest concern right now is for these third graders. So, guys, let's get together. Let's see what we can do to help our children. See if Mr. Douglas needs any help out there at Minor Elementary. I'm sure he could use that help and support. But
Yes.
again, thank you so much for joining us inside the Ladies Room. You guys have a great rest of the week, and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Step into the ladies' room with Clarissa.